Should I join an existing RIA? That is today's question on the Transition to RIA question and answer series. It is question number 51. Hi, I'm Brad Wales with Transition to RIA, where I help you understand everything there is to know about why and how to transition into the RIA model. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about that pathway of, hey, maybe the way I want to go into the model is to join an existing RIA as opposed to maybe starting my own RIA. And so on today's episode, we're going to talk about some of the pros and cons, the ways to go about doing that, and why you might want to do that, why you should be considering that path as well as you consider all of the options. And so along with that, as I always explain to most all advisors that I'm talking to, I did an entirely separate episode on this. It's episode number 42. If you want to go back and listen, there are three primary ways you can transition your practice into the RIA model, and there's a variation of the third one, which I'll touch on. Like I said, if you want the deep dive, go into episode 42. You can hear the whole thing. But in a very high level, quickly here. The three main options are: one, start your own RIA, and then on the far end of the spectrum, join an existing RIA. That's what we're going to be talking about today. And then there's an option kind of in the middle of that spectrum, which you have your own RIA, but you outsource a lot of your middle back office functions to partners that are specially aligned to do that sort of thing. And so again, I'll reference back to the kind of those three models as we go through this, but primarily here, we're going to do a deeper dive into why you might want to join an existing RIA. And when I say join an existing RIA, in theory, there's thousands, tens of thousands of RIAs out there. So that phrase could apply to join in any one of those firms. What I'm referring to is not the guy or girl down the street that has an RIA that just happens to have an empty desk in the corner and would love to have you come sit in that desk. While that does exist and that might be a good fit for you particularly, what I'm referring to is more what are that I call RIA platforms. So these are purpose-built RIAs to cater to financial advisors for the reasons we're going to explain in this episode, that would prefer to maybe join a platform as opposed to starting their own RIA. So again, don't think of it as, the one down the street or the one that wants to buy me out as my succession plan. That exists as well. These are purpose-built to cater to advisors that generally still have a fair amount of runway left in their career, and they want a lot of the benefits of having their own RIA, but maybe want the easier path, both short-term and long-term, of simply joining an existing RIA. And I would also preface it too, this is another thing I've ranted about, is episode 44, if you want to go back and listen to that one, that there is no minimum amount of AUM required to start your own RIA. That there's certainly people out there in the industry that will quickly tell you that's the case and say, oh, you're too small to have your own RIA. You should only maybe join an existing RIA. And the reality is you can start an RIA with zero. There is no minimum requirement. Now, there's reasons you might not want to do that because of the economics and the scale and things like that. But don't assume that your size, whether small or large, should dictate whether you should start your own firm or join an existing firm. And again, we'll dive into that a little more here in a moment. So a quick recap on what it is like to start your own RIA, just so you can appreciate the differences of what joining an existing RIA platform and how it compares. So if you were to go down the path of starting your own RIA firm, in short, you create that RIA. There's a whole process, a whole ecosystem of people out there that help you logistically set it up. So you create that RIA, and then you surround yourself by a set of solution providers or service providers or vendors or whatever you want to call them that help you with all of the necessary components of running an RIA. So that's literally things like having a custodian or custodians, plural, having technology stack to support your RIA, having the compliance apparatus in place. So you have the RIA, and then you build out each of these pieces around it. Now, the benefit of that is the whole RIA ecosystem is there for your choosing, and you can go out there and find all the different vendors you want to pick and choose from, particularly when it comes to technology. There's literally hundreds of options of all different vendors you could put together. And so it does give you a lot of flexibility to do that. Now, likewise, there's also a lot of work and responsibility that goes to maintaining all of these relationships and sourcing out all of these different vendors and making sure, particularly with technology, that they all integrate to each other, both initially and stay integrated on an ongoing basis. But again, there's certainly pros to that and cons to that. And just like all three of the options, I always remind people there's pros and cons to all of them. There's no guaranteed answer that, oh, just because you're a certain size, just because you have a certain way you run your practice, that, oh, this is for sure the best path for you. They all have pros and cons. It's a matter of understanding those pros and cons and deciding which one is most advantageous for you. So again, with the back end of, okay, start our own RA, we got to build out this set of solution providers around it. So the question is, so why? Okay, Brad, there's this whole ecosystem out there to do this. There's people like me that help you figure all this out, and I absolutely do. Plenty of advisors go down that path. It makes sense for them to do it that way. But so you might say, well, why would I ever then consider joining an existing RA firm, an RA platform, again, as I like to describe them? And the firms I'm describing on this episode, again, there's different flavors, different variations of it beyond this, but these are platforms that enable you to do things such as keep 100% ownership in your practice, use your own doing business as name for branding purposes, have the ability to leave at some point in the future if it's no longer a good fit. So there are, again, different flavors. Maybe there's firms that will acquire your practice. There's firms that will insist that you use their brand. Different reasons that those might be a good fit for you. But what I'm describing is more to try to replicate that, starting your own, but being able to do so by simply joining a firm. So what the value proposition at a very high level of these RA platform firms is basically saying, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Advisor, you can go start your own RA and you can build out all this stuff around it. But guess what? That's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of complexity. That's a lot of things that have nothing to do with working with clients, managing money, which is perhaps or arguably what you like doing the most. So what we've done as an RA platform, we've gone out there and built that whole platform for you. We've sourced custodians. We've chosen a best in breed, what we feel is best in breed technology stack. We've gone out there and sourced a TAMP solution to the degree you want a TAMP solution. Oh, and by the way, because of our size, we have way more scale than you arguably will be able to ever perhaps accomplish on your own. And so we can get better pricing on technology. We can get better pricing on TAMP solutions. And we can instantly give you access to be multi-custodial, where if you do it on your own, maybe you don't have enough assets to spread out among multiple custodians, or you don't want to do that initially because of the logistics. Hey, if you plug into our firm, you automatically get all of that right from the jump and ongoing. And we, the platform, have to take care of it and make sure that it still continues on, that the technology integrations are still integrated. And if there ever was an issue, we, the RA platform, figures it out. You, the advisor, don't have to figure that out. So they're basically saying, hey, you can, in theory, have your cake and eat it too. Take what you like of having your own RA firm, working with your clients, having the independence, branding your practice, but instead take the logistical things that you might not like as much and let us handle it for you. Now, again, I said pros and cons to everything. So that's kind of how it's pitched. Everything has a trade-off. So the pro, of course, is, hey, this is much simpler to move into than doing it entirely on your own. And arguably on an ongoing basis is simpler to run it than trying to do it entirely on your own. Now, the con or the trade-off is you have less flexibility in part because they've gone out, as an example, in the technology stack, and they've built a technology stack. So you, as part of your due diligence of such a firm, would want to make sure you like what they've built out with the technology and the TAMP solution, all those things. And if you do like it, then it might be a great fit because, hey, let them handle all of those logistics. You like the value proposition they've put together, and it's a great fit. Obviously, if you don't like it, then it's not going to be a great fit. I'll give you an example. There's a team I'm working with that absolutely loves technology. They love everything about it. They love searching for new technology solutions, all the changes. They are not intimidated at all by the hundreds of different tech vendors out there that you could piece together. In fact, they like that. They want to go out there and build their own tech stack. That team had no interest in joining a pre-built RA platform that it's already done for them. Likewise, there's other advisors that say, I don't want anything to do with making sure APIs integrate with each other and negotiating contracts. And if one part of the tech stack goes down, how do I fix it? I'd rather just outsource that to someone else entirely and let them handle it. Again, that's the value proposition of RIA platform. So it's essentially done for you, but it's built for you. So you have to like what their value proposition is to want to join such a firm. And of course, one of the big benefits that they would point out is because you're joining their firm, they handle the compliance responsibility for you. So it's their responsibility to make sure the ADV is updated and distributed and all those sorts of things. It's their responsibility to respond to and handle an SEC exam when it comes along. It's their responsibility to know when a rule or regulation changes and where that might have to change within the firm as well. Again, pros and cons to everything. It's great that they do that for you, whereas with your own RIA, you're responsible. Now, to be clear, with your own RIA, again, there's an ecosystem of support providers, compliance consultants that will help you with that. So don't think it's not doable, but there's no doubt it is easier to outsource that to someone else. But with the trade-offs that, again, you have to be comfortable with how they manage that as well. Again, it's the entire value proposition. You have to say, is this a good fit for me? And if it is, that could be a wonderful pathway for your practice. And so part of the cost of all this is, and this is just making up numbers because it's easy to describe it this way. You might think, okay, well, what's that going to cost me, or what's the difference? And there is, hey, if someone's going to do something for you, obviously you have to pay them. So just making up numbers here, these are just hypotheticals because it's easy to describe it this way. That if you were to join, say, one of these RIA platforms, and they have a wide range of pricing and a wide range of value propositions or value that you get in returns. That's one of the things I help advisors with, is understand how this firm compares to this firm, There is a wide range of what you pay and what you get. Again, it's finding a firm that has a good proposition that you like. But part of how these firms will describe it is, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Advisor, our platform is priced out, again, just making up numbers here, 25 cents on the dollar, you have to pay us, and we provide all of this for you. It's all wrapped up, taken care of for you. And you might think, wow, I don't want to pay 25 cents on the dollar to someone else. But the reality is, if you're over here with your own RIA, it's going to cost you maybe 20 cents on the dollar to build it all out, because you do have to pay for all of those things, technology, TAMP solutions, maybe custodial fees that could be involved. So you will have to pay it. So don't think of it. So in that case, if it's hypothetically 20 cents on the dollar, don't think of it as, oh, wow, to join an RIA platform is going to cost me 25 cents on the dollar. No, it's only going to cost you the incremental more that you have to pay above what you would have had to pay to do it on your own. And in some cases, that delta is not even there because these firms just have much bigger scale, so they can get better pricing on things like TAMP solutions and technology than you arguably could on your own. So that's, again, pricing is obviously a big part of the equation, but you got to look at how it not only, hey, what does a particular firm charge? How does that compare to the other firms that of their similar flavor that you might consider? And then how does that compare to what it would cost you to do it on your own, both in hard dollars, hard money, literally cost, and the intangibles of your time and responsibility of doing all that. You do need to put a value on that to properly compare it to the other option there. And then the other kind of main point I was going to bring up on this episode with RIA platforms and why you might want to consider joining one of them as well is a great book. Many of you have probably read it, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. It was released in 1988, so it's released quite a while ago. He's done some revisions to it, but it is one of the all-time business classics. If you haven't read it, I strongly encourage you to go read it. Lots of great business lessons, takeaways in the book, but kind of the main theme the author kind of weaves into the storyline is he tells this kind of fictional tale about a baker. So this lady that likes bacon, I think it was cakes is what she likes, bacon, and maybe it's all kinds of dessert things. And so she likes being a baker, and so she decides to start her own bakery. And this is her dream coming true. She's going to be an entrepreneur. She's going to be a business owner. She's going to be independent, all those sorts of things. Because she loves bacon. And the reality, though, is as she gets into the business, she ends up spending an excessive amount of time, not on bacon, but on things like ordering the supplies, dealing with employees, keeping the store as needed and the fixtures done and the rent paid and all those sorts of things. And likewise, her experience is less than ideal because she loved bacon, and all of a sudden now she's only spending a minority amount of time on what she enjoys doing, not on these other things. Now that's a story that you might hear a lot of the larger wirehouse firms tell us. Oh, hey, you can be a financial advisor and not have to worry about any of these other tasks. The reality is that comes with a lot of constraints in that kind of captive W-2 wirehouse environment. I've done lots of episodes on that, written lots of articles on some of those challenges. And so part of what the RIA platforms say is, hey, if you like being a financial advisor, you like working with your clients, you like managing the money, you like doing financial planning, great. You can still do that. You can still be independent and all the benefits of that, 100% book ownership, doing business as names, your own brand and that sort of thing. And let us handle the bulk of that non-client facing responsibility. So it's the example with that baker. If the baker could just write a check once a month or whatever the case may be, and someone else handled all of the non-bacon things, and she got to really focus on what she liked doing, which was bacon and maybe promoting and doing business development, but let someone else do the blocking and tackling. Again, that's a lot of what RA platforms position themselves as, is you do the part you enjoy, we'll do the part you don't enjoy as much. We'll do it for you. We'll do it for arguably maybe cheaper than you could do it yourself. And even if it is more expensive, again, from a time and satisfaction level, you're better off just outsourcing it to us. Again, that's the argument. Pros and cons to both of those approaches. And then last, I would just say, and I talked about the top, you can go back, episode 42, I dive into all three models that I talk about, but just also know, I'm not going to go into it here, but know that there is kind of a middle option there as well. So on one side, we have that start your own RA, build everything out. On the other side, we have join an existing RA platform and all the pros and cons of both. And then there's a growing ecosystem there in the middle of firms who their value proposition is, hey, you can still have your own RIA for one reason or another. You're dead set on having your own RIA, but yet you can still outsource a bulk of that, as they say, middle office or back office tasks to us, this middle office firm. And so just know that there's some flavors out there of that. It's beyond the scope of this particular episode. Maybe I'll do a future episode on those as well. But certainly, if any of those three approaches you want to learn more about, that's the sort of thing I have conversations with advisors about daily. So please don't hesitate to reach out. We can dive into that. So I'll leave you three takeaways on this subject. The first is be open-minded to all three of these approaches. I know I only did a deep dive on one of them, but on this episode, but all three of the approaches. And I would tell you, most of the time when advisors reach out to me to begin a conversation about moving into the RA model, they are mentally thinking, hey, I only want to consider starting my own firm, or that's all they maybe even know exists of a way to go about doing this. And I completely understand that. And for many advisors, again, ultimately, that is going to be the best path for them and the path they go down. But I always say, hey, and this is what I walk folks through. Let's understand each of these three approaches. Let's understand the pros and cons of each of these approaches. And I would tell you, more often than not, my experience is that after someone has been exposed to all three of these, they generally will look at least two of them. It's rare to say, let me get all three, because again, by design, there's variability there of what you get. And pretty quickly, advisors usually, after I lay this out, I have a visual I show people and I say, okay, here's how it works. Here's the pros and cons. Pretty quickly, people come back and say, oh, I'm not interested in the first option, or I'm not interested in the third option, but I do want to learn more about this one and this one. And that's usually how the conversation goes. So I just say, be open-minded, learn about all three, learn about why you might consider one versus the other. And I think you'd be surprised. Sometimes you think, oh, I'm for sure only going one path. And then you come to learn maybe a different path is actually a better fit for you. The next takeaway, advisors of all sizes go down each of these three paths. And so today we're talking about joining a firm. Don't think that, if you're small, you shouldn't start your own, so that's why you join a firm, because the reality is smaller advisors join existing RA platforms, and very large advisors or teams with hundreds of millions, if not billions, join existing RA platforms. So AUM alone is an important factor, because there is some scale that comes with having your own RA and having some assets involved in that. But if anyone tells you, how much assets do you have? Because of that, this is the path you should go. I think that's incredibly short-sighted. That is a variable to consider. That is a variable to talk about as part of this. But again, there's advisors of all sizes go down all three paths. And then the last thing I'd tell you is of this, because it's the focus of this episode, these RA platforms, as I talk about, the good news is there's a number of them out there. Now that there's actually no shortage, to be honest, of RAs that kind of learn what I do and learn in the arena I operate in. They reach out to me and they said, Brad, we'd love to have you keep us in mind and maybe recommend us to advisors. And so part of my value proposition is sorting through all of those available options out there. And I would tell you, and I'm supportive of anyone that's trying to be entrepreneurial, but it just is what it is. Some platforms are significantly farther along, significantly more advanced, have significantly more resources than others do. And likewise, you have a lot of great choices to choose from, again, if that's a path to go down. But then even within the ones that I think have a wonderful value proposition, have very competitive price, and even then you have different flavors, which I think is great. So some might be focused on a particular thing. So I'll give you a couple quick examples. There's some that say, hey, we are believers in a very passive investment approach. And so even though we're not going to tell you how to manage your assets, we've built our entire value proposition and resources and support around that kind of advisor. So, hey, if you're that kind of advisor, that could be a great fit. If you're not, they're not a great fit, and that's perfectly fine. Others say, hey, we are very financially plan and focused. So we've built this value proposition based around supporting you doing deep financial planning with your clients. If that's a fit for you, wonderful. If financial planning is not part of your value proposition with your own clients, that firm's not going to probably be a fit. So again, the idea is, and this is a beautiful thing for advisors, is that even if you decide, okay, hey, maybe joining an existing RIA platform is better for me, you then have some wonderful choices within that. But again, they do vary both on who they're catering to, what kind of advisors they're catering to, what that value proposition is, what the pricing is, and it goes across the entire spectrum to select from. So with that, like I said, my name is Brad Wales with Transition to RIA, and this is literally the type of thing I help advisors with all day long, is have this sort of conversation. How do you go about transitioning into the RIA model? First, we talk about why you might want to, why it might make sense, but assuming you get over that or it does make sense, then, okay, how do I do this? What are those pathways? And so talking about this option of joining an existing RIA firm, joining an existing RIA platform is absolutely something I help advisors with, help you sort through all those different flavors, know what you can expect from a pricing perspective to what you can expect to receive back as a value proposition, why one firm might be a better fit for you than another. Again, all the sorts of things I help folks with. Happy to help you as well. If you're not already there, if you head on over to transitiontoria.com, you can find all kinds of more videos I've made, more podcasts, white papers, all kinds of resources available for free. And then at the top of every page is a contact link. If you click on that, you can instantly and easily schedule time to have a conversation with me about this exact topic, to say, Brad, here's where I'm at. Here's what my practice looks like. Here's the kind of clients I work with. Here's what I want to do going forward. Help me understand my options. Help me understand if this is even something I should be considering. And if it is, then we can even go so far as getting to where we're really getting in the details here of, okay, these are the specific approaches or pathways that might be the best fit for you. Happy to help you with that conversation as well. Again, transitiontoria.com, all kinds of resources, and you can get a hold of me. Again, each page, just click on that contact link. So with that, I hope you found value in today's episode, and I'll see you on the next one.